Hi, my name is Emerson Wynn, and I will be talking about my creative critical reflection for my film, Deceiving Looks. Here's a quick synopsis of Deceiving Looks. As two students are driving into an unknown area, they spot a pretty girl who's walking by herself. They attempt to help her by driving her to the next town. She accepts. As they drive to the next town, there's breaking news of a current murderer going around and killing people, in which one of the students draws suspicion to the girl picked up. He dives into this more, but she constantly beats around the bush, and the other student who's driving doesn't care and attempts to converse with her more. The driver then needs to pee and steps out of the car, which inevitably leads to his demise and the other students. The girl reveals her true colors in the end and shows to the students that she is not really who she is perceived to be. So to start off, we're going to talk about filming equipment and how my group mates and I started filming. So we first utilized a phone rig, as you can see in this image, a simple phone rig, external microphone, and a dead kitten or windscreen to protect from other ambient noises or other sounds of nature that we did not need, or the AC in the car, which was one of our main filming sets. And then for the filming itself, we used all this on an iPhone as we are most comfortable with it, as we used it in previous films, as well as we know all the features used in it. For example, we can magnify, or we can stop recording, we can edit it easier. So, moreover, we're going to talk about costumes and why we use the costumes we used. For example, our one of our main characters is a female, and in our script and in our whole plot as a whole, we wanted her to be the main character in which she is not really who she is to be. And we wanted to incorporate male gaze theory into our film by making the girl in our film wear some sort of flashy clothing. For example, in the whole movie overall, she's wearing a crop top and some tight sweatpants. And this really outlines her features more, which is why the students pulled over in the first place to analyze her and to help her. But we wanted to use male gaze to reflect on how women are perceived in society. For example, in our script and the film, she could need help or she couldn't need help, but her clothing makes her more versatile in the way that men want to help her in order to gain status with her. And our film, she is used as some sort of image, and she's perceived in where she wants to help, or she needs help from the other characters. And this reflects how young women are reflected in society as a whole, where if they're walking by themselves, for instance, it is already assumed that they need help or they need aid, and they're kind of gazed upon as men as an image of enjoyment. So this is why we made her wear crop top and sweatpants. Moreover, our other two group mates also are seen in this photo here, where they're wearing, similar to what our script says, what a college student would wear. For example, they have on their t-shirts or their long sleeve t-shirts, they're wearing Central Football. And this is a local sports team in an area, but that can resemble a sports team of a local college, which is what they state about themselves in the film also. They state how they are they go to a local college nearby, a few hours away, and they're wearing what young people would wear also. For example, they're wearing sweatpants and gym shorts. This really does engage the audience because it kind of compares them and makes them aligned with the audience themselves. For example, we want to target a young audience, teenagers and young adults, by showing how while this is a fictional story, it kind of engages them in the thinking that, wow, this could be any one of us. For example, they're young students that are actively driving somewhere, and they just happen to see someone and they pull over to attempt to help them. And we want to engage young people to show they also do this often, or they don't also have to do this often, but they can agree with that this is what young people do. They try to pull over and talk to other people. So some props we used. We used multiple props. For example, in the left image, we can see we had a cloth or rag as well as a chemical, and we wanted to use this chemical bottle, as a kind of a semiotic of a chemical called chloroform, where later in the film she puts the chemical into the rag and subdues one of our members in our film. We wanted the audience to kind of align themselves with that classic stereotypical chemical on a certain rag in which it causes someone to be subdued or knocked out. Moreover, we had the red backpack, and red is important in this case since it shows that there's impending doom or danger within the film, and the students who picked her up aren't likely to be in a bad situation. And this backpack is something everybody would wear, which also conforms to her identity as a young girl with a young style of fashion. Uh, this is one of our main props and settings. We used a car throughout our whole film to show how uh, this is part of everybody's daily life, and it kind of conforms to that audience where your car is kind of your second workspace, where you need it to go everywhere, you need it to do everything. And in our film, we wanted to use this as to capture shots inside a car and establish how a conversation would be in a car, as well as how the setting revolves around the car. So not only did we use it as prop, but we used it as a setting to film a majority of our scenes as well. So two other settings that we also used was my backyard, and my backyard, or rather my front yard and my backyard, where I live in a more secluded area of the suburbs, and there's not as many houses. And these stills show more kind of a forest aspect or back roads aspect where only a few people may live in distant properties from each other. And we wanted to include this into our film because we wanted our murder scenes and our scene overall to be in a secluded area so that there would be no witnesses. And this would further connect to how certain areas of places are related to crime, or there's less likely to be, or there's more likely to be crime there since there's less likely to be witnesses watching a crime occur. And this is where we captured the shots so that the audience could understand that when the murderer kills the students, she wouldn't be caught doing it, or she at least she planned it out so that she wouldn't be caught. So, furthermore, we're going to talk about our shots and mistakes. So, in this first image here, this is how we recorded our conversational scene where one of our members of the car, or one of the student drivers, is already holding the camera and pointing it as if they're talking each other outside the window. Almost as if just like if you're talking to someone outside of a car and you pull down your window to talk to them, we want to establish that shot almost as if the audience was part of the film. And we knew to do this because we've done it before where we wanted someone talking outside the shot and talking inward to the car. And this shot was carried out beautifully as they switched turns and they did the back-to-back shot where she responds, he answers, responds, statement, answer. In this next image, this is all of our group mates in one car, and we're establishing this full scene. So the two students at the front are both our cast members, as well as how they helped us establish the script. But I'm on the left, and I'm trying to show how the cameraman on the right should point the camera to show how these two guys are driving up on the girl, and they're focusing on her, as if there was also the audience in the car, and how their eye view would look on the girl as well, and their perspective. So then we used a phone rig to do this, and we zoomed into the middle of the car, and then we panned it sort of to the left, and this would focus on the girl outside the car with the window down. And taking a look at this next shot, that's also how we captured the conversational scene in the car. We took the phone rig and the microphone, and we set it above the dash inward into the car. And this posed a few problems. For example, we told them that we couldn't be in the car filming with them, or else that would ruin the scene since they would see the cameraman and director both in the car. So this posed a threat since they needed to film all of their scenes without the cameraman and the director being there. So they had to know where to look, what to say, and not to drive fast. For the camera rig was set perfectly on top of the dashboard in order for it to not fall over. And while we didn't know to put up the dashboard at first, we planned this out a few days before to really think how could we do this. Would we have to buy a phone rig to set it above the mirror, or could we just assemble the same way? But as we did it on the same filming day, we just set it above the car, let it sit there beautifully, and it worked out to our pleasure. So in this next shot is a little example of how we did it in relation to how we filmed the scene outside. So I'll play the shot first. So you see right here, it's kind of hard to see, but you see right here, he takes off the phone rig and camera rig as he's pulling up. And he takes off the phone rig and the camera off the dashboard as we're pulling up because we wanted to record him in one of our scenes pulling over to the side of the road to pee outside of the car, in which this further led on to the next scenes. But this helped us establish how they were filming in the car where all their surroundings were behind them, and how this would be as if a family would be driving in a car, or you'd be driving with your friends, which further established the tone of the scene. And we kind of knew that we need something to be at the front of the car to record the background, but we didn't know how to do it yet. But once we did it, it was a good shot. This is another shot, but this was actually kind of a harder shot. And this posed a slight problem, but we fixed it quickly as it made sense of how we do it. So I'll play the shot at first.
Can't someone be a good Samaritan?
Alright. But one red flag and I call the cops.
Perfect.
So in that shot, the first run we did it of was our girl character, our female character, was holding the camera, and which she would pass it off to the cameraman and point it at her. So then it seemed like a naturally flowing camera angle of how someone would look, or how it would pan across from one character to another. But when we first did that, it was hard to pass off the camera without it shaking, and that wouldn't seem very natural at all and make the scene quite awkward. So I would have to go, or our cameraman would have to go in and point it at our driver here, and then as he's speaking, when he's done speaking, he would have to quickly pan over back to the girl in order to establish a natural flowing thought of he's talking and then she's talking, the same way our minds work. And this helped us establish a shot. While we didn't get it on the first try, we quickly adapted to that, and we made sure other things were not visible as well. For example, in the scene, the rear view mirror was present, and we didn't want our camera being in the rear view mirror, in the shot, so that the audience would understand this is a natural occurring film.
Can someone?
So this is some editing. This is an editing software we use, and it was actually quite easy to use. For example, while I did not take direct part in editing our film, I did suggest multiple clips and how to structure the film overall with our editor. Our editor simply stated it was quite easy to make this film. For example, our whole group has made 4 previous films on media studies, and each time we got better and better at our production style, as well as our script and our camera angles. And when we did editing, we knew how to overlap shots, which shots preceded or succeeded each other, how the dialogue would flow, and how the transitions would flow in each other. In this film, we used a lot of quick cuts, we used a few cut-on actions, fade-ins, and each of these shots are used in order to make it seem fastly time-paced, as well as build suspense. For example, we faded in a black shot in one of our scenes when our character gets knocked out, and this was used to further show how it was suspenseful and kind of keep the audience on the edge of the seat to find out what happened next. And in the next shot, we see that one of his friends is being dragged away while the other one is set there locked up. And this kind of leaves it at a cliffhanger to see what happens next. So that's why we would further establish how the movie would be in the text, or the film would be in the text, which would be a movie. So in this next shot, this is kind of 3 types of things in one. This is a mistake, a blooper, and what kind of went wrong, and kind of how we set up the camera. So this was set up the previous day before, where this was our first day filming, and in the shot right here, they are all laughing. So that's a clear mistake, and this was kind of one of our errors in our productions design where, or not in our production design, but more in the acting of the cast members where they would often laugh, and that was kind of the major setback of each style of the scene, where they would laugh and we would have to retry, retry, and retry until they got it right. And the shots and the production design itself was pretty clean and clear. However, the acting was kind of off in where they laughed. However, each time they laughed, they got better and better, and they fully understand the scene more, and they remember the dialogue a bit better. Moreover, you can see what they're wearing is very different, or not very different, but slightly different to what they're wearing in the final product. And this was a major design flaw in our production and our reliability of our group, where after we filmed the first day, we need to come back to finish the movie in the second day, but we lost, or our group members forgot their clothing, and we had to refilm some scenes regardless. So this kind of set us back in making the film overall. And we had to then refilm, but then this also improved our style because everybody knew what to say. We all knew how to set up the cameras. We knew what position we were in. We laid out positions where we already knew that if we were there, we wouldn't be seeing the camera, but we could still direct from an angle. And this, while we can say this kind of hurt the style of the filming of that day, it improved the quality of our filming overall because we already knew how to film, act, speak, and align ourselves with everything of the film, part of the film.
You should have pulled it out.
And this, while it was a mistake, they enjoyed themselves and they laughed. But after this clip, they got it for sure. So, in conclusion, our movie or our film would be distributed as a movie. For example, this wouldn't last as a show because there was no relationship between the girl and the two students. Instead, we want this to be a horror slash drama where they kind of expect the girl to be this person who is susceptible to danger, or she needs help. These two students believe this. However, this is where the horror and drama scenes come in, where she's not who she believes she is. She is shying away from questions that usually people don't shy away from, and that overall contributes to the theme of our movie. And this would play out in a movie since it would show how after he runs away, or after, excuse me, he's tied up, there can be many alternatives to what he does. He would either run away, he tried to escape, he would confront the murderer, or the murderer could further torture him or make him do something else. And that is why we distribute it as a movie as opposed to a show. Some experience learned. We learned a lot this film, as we've made 3 previous films. This one was quite the learning curve to all the other ones. For example, we filmed this one pretty late to what we needed to do. So we wanted to shorten our scene. We wanted to shorten the amount of outtakes we had in order to grasp the whole situation. And we learned how to quickly adapt to how shooting scenes would look. We wanted to quickly adapt to the framing of each scene. For example, we needed a medium close-up shot outside the window when they're talking to each other, and that's why we passed the camera back and forth and we pan to them to establish that character feeling of how you would talk to someone as well as if you were in a car. And we also learned how to set up our cameras in multiple ways where we would exclude ourselves, but it would capture the whole scene and feeling. What could I change? There's many things I could change with the film. For example, I wish I could change the timing management of our whole film, but that's water under the bridge, and that can simply be said that we just need to control our filming schedule a little bit more strictly as opposed to letting it loose. For example, we wanted to film on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. However, we canceled on Thursday. We filmed on Friday. The Friday filming did not go as planned, so then we had to do all of it on Saturday. So had we not done that, and we'd done that 3 weeks prior, we could fix the mistakes as we go. And that's something I would change. I would also change our script a little bit to kind of lessen the amount of dialogue in order to include more cuts, more diverse cuts, include lighting, and maybe since all our previous films have not included this, we kind of wanted to include a night shot where we could include specific lighting in the film. However, in this film, we just like natural lighting more because it kind of brings up the vibrantness of a natural environment on how people interact in the daytime as opposed to the nighttime, and that wouldn't make any sense for someone to be walking at night. So we wanted, if there's something I could change, I'd probably change the exterior lighting outside so we can include specific lighting in the car, as well as shortening the dialogue of the film in order to create this. And lastly, how did my genre style influence the film? We wanted to include drama and horror from the beginning, and we every previous film we've done, we wanted to do this. So this helped us build upon suspense and anticipation, and it helped us build the cuts and how each scene played out in relation to how the characters were feeling, which both combined conveyed a certain emotion towards the audience. And as I would like to say, all in all, I really appreciated making this film as well as my friends did, as we worked together coercively, and we really made this film as best as we could, and we learned a lot doing this with theories and how they play out and how the audience picks up certain emotions. I thank you for your time for listening to me, and this is my creative critical reflection. Thank you.